Hello everybody. Hello everybody. I'm Daniele Fontani
And I'm Daniele Ciulli.
We are here together for talking about one of the most interesting JavaScript library we can find on the world, no, both maybe on
We can't find any, so we made it.
Okay, perfect. So we created this framework that's called crudit. It's a micro backend for fast shipping application. We will talk about this today, and we will try to use it in a real project. And you can follow us in this presentation for discover what is crudit and how we made it.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And so we hope to enjoy. We hope that you enjoy the presentation as we enjoy creating this framework for you. Well, coming back to the presentation, I think we are ready for start.
Yeah, we are ready.
Great. So we will present ourselves. So why spending more time about telling about us? We are software developers. We work in Sintra Consulting. That's a company that's based in Italy, and we make e-commerce solution and integration projects. And we have a lot of years
in the business, and we work for first year partners to create custom integration and custom e-commerce solutions.
Great. Let's starting from a pain point. That's pain point not for me, not for Daniele, but for quite every developer in the world, even if they are front-end developer or back-end developer or any other kind of label they can have. So how we can develop an application in 2033? Well, I started making this job many years ago, and when I started, it was very easy because you had the monolith, and the monolith was very easy because you had to be able to do everything from the backend, from the front end, and so much. Today, the scenario is quite different. A modern app application is more complex because we have multiple components. A lot of components that we can see here. We have multiple microservices. That's good because you can delegate the microservice development to one team or another team, and that's great because you can make work in parallel. So maybe you have some background job that works in your infrastructure. You can have a message queue for making this microservice communicated together, and you can have database relational or non-relational, or you can have database caching. Then you have a front-end application that's usually a single-page application, so a modern application that communicates through API to the backend, and that's good. That's a very good solution because this, as we see, you can use the best tool for each need you have. So you work always with the best of breed. Moreover, we can have parallelization across multiple teams. That's good because you can reduce the time to the market, and you can, of course, you can have specialized people that do only one thing all the day, so they are good, and you can separate concepts, so every team do and knows exactly what they need to know and to do, and moreover you can improve performances using a simple way of communicating data between the components of the system. So that's a very interesting and very good step forward that we can have. That's good. We love that. Anyway, I'm sad to announce that this new way of work brings with him some small issues. Issues that in the most of cases are not so relevant or can be lot less than the advantages they bring to the system. So in this case, it's not a problem. But in some scenarios, the point that I listed in this slide are not so good. In example, we need multiple teams or multiple competencies. So that lead to a lot of people or a lot of technical people or a lot of teams that have to communicate together, and this could be a cost in big in scenario where you have a lot of of component and few people that work on it. A single person cannot do the job. This should be a good point. So it's good that a single person cannot do the job because each person that is involved has the best skill for the job he does. But in some case, you would like to be able to address the problem in a few minutes, in a few hours, and this is not always possible in a complex scenario when the application is split in multiple components that needs multiple competencies for be understood. In case of problem, where to look? That's another good point. So in case something is wrong, who is responsible for that? What is the problem? Maybe some problem start in the backend part and finish in the front end part. So it's not so easy to address problem in a fashionable time. Who is impacted more from these small issues about the progress we have in web application? Of course, low budget projects. So if you have a low budget project if you want to do something that's quick and dirty, like the application that often we need to implement in small companies or in startup, in these scenarios, well, we are more impacted. So a lot of companies have to sustain a big cost of big expenses for maintaining and creating applications that are performant, that get all the advantages we can have on a modern application. Well, the question is quite provocatory, but it's actual, and it's still possible to develop a web application with easy. Okay, we are here today. We are here today just for answer this question. That's something that we want. We want to answer this question by explaining how we try to do that, and we try to do with crudit. And how slogan, and you can.
Yes, with crudit you can.
Sure, you with crudit you can. What you can try. Of course, you can keep the result of creating a web application when you don't need to have any competencies in the backend part. So we want, with this library, to accelerate the web development by reducing the amount of time we have in the backend part. We want to focus all on the business logic, or write code for implementing what you need. Of course, in the market, we have a lot of tools in the ecosystem of headless CMS or data CMS that help you for implementing backend solution with small developing effort. But in this library, we want to make it more comfortable. We want to avoid license fees. We want to create something that could run in free tier of many of the most spread cloud platform like Azure, AWS, or Vercel. And moreover, we want to create something that can be customized easy. So we finally have a library that's about 100 kilobytes, something like that, that can run in easy, and you can install and configure and support complex scenario like multi-tenant when you want to create a startup and having a multi-tenant environment. You have multiple customers, each one with different data, so you can. So with this small library, you can do very, very powerful things. So I would to let Daniele, the other Daniele, come on the stage and present what is crudit in detail.
Thank you, Daniele, for your introduction, and let's discover together what crudit can do, and what can do in your project, in your existing project, and what crudit can do if you want to experiment or create a new JavaScript project, and how to use it. Yes, with crudit you can, but what is crudit? Crudit is a JavaScript library that in a low-code, cloudless environment can enable developer to create applications focusing on the front end, focusing on the experience the user will have without thinking a lot about the backend or the sysadmin knowledge. What is crudit for? Crudit can be used in a wide variety of projects. You can use crudit for fast shipping multi-tenant application. Let's say you want to create a dashboard where some user can see something and some user can see something else. You can create with crudit this interface, and you can allow user to log in with their credential and see only the database they have access for. You can use crudit also in existing project. Let's say you have a project based on a Mongo database hosted on Mongo Atlas, and you need to change the data structure for a change request your client has requested. You can use crudit to handle the mutation and to manipulate existing data on a Mongo database easily, fast, and in a safe way. You can also use crudit for a marketing campaign or some survey. You can use crudit for form retrieval, and you can use server-side validation to be sure that the data you're receiving is clean and the format of the data is respected. But how? Crudit is a JavaScript library that can be used in every node.js runtime. We develop crudit with cloudless function in mind, such as Lambda function from vue.js, Cloud function from Google Cloud, or Edge function from Vercel. The demo we have prepared in our GitHub is based on Vercel Edge function. And once you configure crudit in this Edge function, you get a REST compliant API with just a few configuration in JavaScript. Crudit has many features. The feature we start with was the crud on a database. The first thing every application needs is a way to communicate to a database to safely store its data. So crudit can deploy in just a few lines a REST compliant API to write, read from a document-based database, and we use the Mongo Atlas database. You can use crudit to create custom endpoints that have a dedicated function to handle their request. You can add server-side validation, so your data will be clean and there won't be data in a collection that don't respect the validation. You can mutate existing data and you can add hooks on event that happens on the database. Let's talk about this feature one for all with some examples, because you need to see how crudit is really easy, really fast, and really fast to develop. This is the configuration we use for crudit in a edge function on Vercel for the crud feature. As you can see, we use an Express server, and the only configuration we add is the database URL to configure crudit. Then we let crudit handle all the request and the response, and just crudit run request response, and crudit handles everything. Every request with this basic configuration will create a database for each user that makes the request, and the collection where the data is stored will be based on the path the request has. So let's say my username is Daniele, and I call the database, the API in the path prova, my data will be stored if I make a post request in a document in the post collection, in the exam prova collection. And if with a get, I can get the data from that collection. With a put, I can update the data in that collection, and I can delete with a delete call. It's as I said, its user writes in its own Mongo database, so there is no sharing between users of the data they write on the database. Each user has his own database, so can't access other users' data, and there is no leaking of them. You can also create database with other method we are going to present you in a few minutes, but the basic for the just crud part of crudit is like this. You can create also custom endpoints. Let's say you have a custom endpoint that you can overwrite the default for a specific endpoint. In this case, we have a post request on the publish endpoint, on the publish path, needs to be logged. That's the true. So you need to be a logged user. And then the request is handled with the function handle request. You can use this method to create a login and register method for crudit. So you can implement yourself the login and registering method you are more confident about. You can configure a simple username and password login, or integrate with a third-party service. So you are free to choose the login method you like the most. You can add server-side validation. Server-side validation is performed before writing on the database, so there won't be in your database unclean data. If you configure server-side validation, this validation can be scoped on a certain database, on a certain collection, and you can also specify the regex. So let's say you want to specify the collection, the database only for the users that are admin. So you can specify the database you know are admin user using a regex, and you can specify which collection they can write which structure of data, also with the name of the collection, or with a regex that validate the name of the collection. The syntax for validation is in the object, in the validation object, and uses the structure of validator.js, which is one of the very few requirement we need to crudit. And you can configure all sort of validation on the form of your data. You can append hooks and event listeners on some database events, and you can trigger there are some events on the database, and once an event is triggered, it will launch a function. The hooks can block the execution. So let's say you have a before save hooks. You can add some sort of validation with a third-party integration using a call to, I don't know, let's say you are taking the billing information for your customer, you might want to use VS service to validate their billing data. You can use this validation on the hooks before save, and if the data are valid, you can allow the user to write. But if the data are not valid, you can throw an error, and the error will be in the response when the user makes the request. We used this example on the before save event. We save in the logs database on the before save collection a log that logs the date and the user that writes something on a certain database and collection. And this is an example you can use to log your data and to add a logging to your application. Then the mutation. The mutation is an implementation that lets you mutate existing data on a database. Like the validation, also here you can use a database name and a collection name, or a regex for the database name and the collection name, and mutate the data. Then you can apply a mutation. A mutation, once defined, will be executed only once, and you can execute the mutation with apply single. So you specify a certain database and a certain mutation, and only that database is mutated. You can use apply one. So the mutation, on apply one, you specify a database, and on that database will be executed every mutation that has not already been executed, and the flag true allows to continue to execute the mutation if one has an error. If you set that flag to false, once a mutation returns an error, is blocked the entire process. Or you can apply all the mutation to all the database in the project. So it can be very useful for a bulk mutation on every data in your database, like you need to change the structure of the data in all your customer base for a certain collection. You can do this with a mutation with apply all. And as I said before, you don't need even DevOps, because crudit can be deployed entirely on cloudless runtimes. It basically just needs to run on node.js compatible runtimes. So Lambda, Cloud Function, Edge Function, Azure Function. There are a ton of different solutions that can run crudit. And you don't need DevOps, you don't need to think about scaling, you don't need to think about dimensioning your server, because it's all handled by the cloud. What is this for? Is for a modern full stack JavaScript project that needs a database collection. So you think about a front-end driven app. So you think for the first thing you think about is your customer experience, and then you need something to save your data. You can use crudit with a simple integration. You can use crudit on Node.js with MongoDB applications as a tool to manipulate your data, or to add validation, to handle crud operation. In any project that is written most in JavaScript, you don't need complex infrastructure. In the explorative or amateur project, because crudit can reduce really the cost to zero, because in an explorative or amateur project, you can be inside the free tier of many services where crudit can run. Who needs something else? Crudit is not for everyone. Crudit doesn't support at the moment assets. So if in an application that needs the customer to import export assets, it doesn't work. It works with a not relational database, with a document-based database. So if your data structure is very relational, crudit is not the best solution for you. If you need a high business logic complexity, maybe you need something more robust. And if you need to separate business logic from data, also crudit is not the best, because crudit is just an API to write to a database with some feature. And if you need a robust business logic, you need something more powerful. And it's also not ideal for someone that needs a graphical interface to access a backend, such as CRM, because you can do it with crudit, but you have to develop from the ground up. Crudit it can be used for an API to write to a database, but it can be used to read from a database. But if you need a graphic interface for the backend, it's not the best, because you have to write on your own. What do you want to add? We want to add import from YAML and JSON of configuration. This will be extremely important for the mutation, for example, because you can bulk edit them with YAML or JSON. We would like to add support for media assets without creating an endpoint. So let's say you add a base 64 of an image. We want to store the asset in a bucket. That's the idea, but we are working on it. We are open to suggestions from future implementation. Also, contribution and pull requests are open. So if you want to participate in this project, we are really happy. And also, GitHub stars don't aren't are never enough. So thank you. It was a pleasure to be part of this event, and hope you see you as soon as possible. I'm Daniele, and this is Crudit.